Chapter 46 to 48. 16 years old Rei and Conan, and 12 years old Ringo stood in the Mizuki's office. The man was eyeing them proudly as he turned to Rei. As of now, I declare you Rei Yotsuba, a jonin of Kiri. The Mizuki smiled and turned to Conan. As of now, I declare you Conan Yotsuba, a jonin of Kiri. He repeated and then turned to tense Ringo. As of now, I declare you Ringo Amuri, a chunin of Kiri. His features softened. Rei and Conan grew bitter. They knew his features softened only because Ringo was proving her loyalty and drive to protect the village and become one of the 7 swordsmen of Kiri. They could only sigh as the girl was already lost to them. With this, your team is also disbanded and Ringo will be put under the tutelage of the current wielder of Kiba. Rei and Conan will stay as a team. You may go. The trio bowed and left the office. Well, shall we go celebrate it somewhere? Rei asked the girls but noted that Conan was staring at Ringo. I want to spar. Conan told Ringo, who looked at her in confusion. A melee spar. Conan elaborated as she took out her fan. She practiced a lot with it and wanted to know how good she was against Ringo. Ringo slowly nodded. She knew that Conan was a ranged fighter but now she challenged her to a close combat weapon spar? On one hand, Ringo was excited about such a fight. On the other, she was afraid she would lose to a long-ranged fighter in her specialty. Illogical fear it might have been, but after sparring with Conan long enough, she learned to expect the unexpected. The trio came to their clearing and found a lone figure of Mei practicing her katan. She was passable in futon, so Rei decided to start katan as that was the nature she would need for both of her bloodlines. Rei came to Mei and saw dried tears on her cheeks. He clicked his tongue. The Mizuki's idiocy did a number on the girl. The villagers really didn't like her and feared her, and from time to time, some of them struck her. Well, Rei showed them exactly what he thought about that, and since then Mei was practically worshipping the ground he was walking on. Conan was a bad influence like that. Mei was quickly taught henge and trained in it so she won't have to endure the glares. But the girl said she doesn't want to use it. Rei was really at the end of the rope with her. She wanted to be glared at. Unknown to Rei, Mei hated the glares. She hated the civilians. And she despised Kiri. Conan really did make Mei open-minded. She never gave Mei any opinion or a way to look at things. Nor did Conan actually try to brainwash Mei. She just told her the things as they were. However brutal it was. She was blunt, honest, and precise when she explained things. This made the young mind of Mei mature faster. The very frequent injection of nature energy and elemental chakra through food Rei cooked only fastened this process exponentially. Mei Terumi started seeing things as they were. The subtle fear-driven hatred the civilians showed her. How other kids shied away from her. How the teachers were always awkward when she asked a question. Even if the last one was a shocker since they were chunin and should know better. Mei started to form her own opinions. Her somewhat mature but still childish mind thought simply. People who hated her were on one side. Rei and Conan on the other. And those who hated her didn't deserve respect or acknowledgement from her. Mei Terumi officially hated Kiri with her whole heart. She was just good at hiding it, thanks to Conan's lessons. There was only one thing Mei loved. Rei came closer to Mei and firmly grabbed the distraught kid's chin, turning her face towards him. He saw the big purple bruise on her cheek and sighed. He put his hand on it, making Mei wince, but her expression turned to a relaxed one after Rei started using soothing water chakra to relax her bruised muscles. Better? He asked Mei, who nodded. Rei picked Mei up while she yelped and sunshined onto the lake, sitting there while putting Mei into his lap. Conan is going to fight Ringo. Watch, okay? Mei excitedly nodded as her very observant mind didn't want to miss even a second of the fight between the two strong kunoichi. Conan stood opposite Ringo, holding her folded fan at the ready. Ringo, holding 2 swords, nodded at Conan, signalizing she was also ready. Just then a gentle breeze rushed through the clearing, and when it settled, the battle started. Ringo ran at Conan with her 2 swords, slashing one in a downward motion, aiming from above at Conan's head. Obviously, Conan raised her fan and blocked it, instantly opening herself for an upward slash of the second sword of Ringo as it aimed at her belly. Conan twisted her body and stepped to the left, evading the upward slash, her fan still clashing with Ringo's other sword. Conan slightly relaxed the hand holding her fan, unbalancing Ringo's hand, and then Conan tensed her muscles, jerking the fan alongside the sword to the side while her body stepped into Ringo's guard. Ringo was sent flying as Conan punched her in the gut. Don't underestimate me, kid. Conan snorted as Ringo sprang up on her feet, a sullen pout on her face. Ringo did indeed underestimate Conan. She didn't find the fan threatening. In her mind, it was less than kunai. But it stopped her sword. Okay. Ringo accepted the rebuke and her sword sparkled with Raitun chakra. Conan smiled and her fan glowed in futon chakra. On the side, Mei tugged on Rei's sleeve, making him hum and look at her. What's going on? She asked, pointing at Conan and Ringo. Hey Smilit. Conan was parrying slash after slash in a high-speed clash with Ringo. Ringo was good. Strong. Fast. Extremely fast. But Conan's body was nurtured with nature energy. She might not be a close combat fighter, but she was fast enough and her mind was used to controlling thousands of papers. Split-second decisions were not a problem for her. The fight is a struggle between Ringo's strength as a swordsman and Raitun user. She is natural and very strong. But Conan is more experienced and her mind is used to do fast decision-making. She is holding Ringo off by offsetting any momentum or deflecting any power she uses into the slash to the side, making Ringo unable to start her fast slashing combo. Yes. But how? They both coat their weapons in elemental chakra. Mei exclaimed as Ringo's sword again bounced off of Conan's fan, forcing her to regain her balance. Rei saw that Ringo was frowning hard. She was faster, better, and stronger than Conan, but she was always interrupted mid-combo or always somewhat missed. Rei patted Mei's head. The girl was very inquisitive and perceptive about matters she shouldn't know for at least a decade yet. The foundation of Raiton is high-speed vibration. So fast it is actually cutting power. Futon, on the other hand, is sharpness itself. Raiton is weak towards Futon. You can see it here. Ray pointed as sparks flew from yet another clash between Ringo's and Conan's weapons. Conan's Futon is so sharp it makes Ringo's Raiton vibrations literally bounce away instead of letting them cut it. That sets them into opposite motion, sending Ringo's sword back, unbalancing her, therefore stopping any momentum she may have gained and making them reposition herself. Which must be a hell of a pain in the ass for somebody whose fighting style is based on speed. She is getting a stopper to her acceleration every time they clash. Hey Chouklet. Oh. May nodded and continued to watch the fight. Ringo was frustrated. She would be seething mad if it was not so damn depressing. She couldn't build her momentum. She couldn't build her chakra. She was attacking and attacking, always moving around, looking for openings, and Conan was still in that damn defensive stance, almost standing near the place when the battle began. At times sidestepping Ringo's slashes, at others parrying them. Yes. Parrying her swords with a fan. It was ridiculous. Ringo was faster and stronger. It was obvious. But Conan was patiently chipping away her strength by steadily guarding herself. She wasn't even attacking. Just waiting for a major opening. Ringo decided that enough was enough. She charged at Conan again, gripping her two swords, and her left one quickly slashed from the left side in a sideswipe at Conan's midsection. It was her fastest possible speed and Conan would be forced to block it. She wasn't fast enough to dodge. Conan did just that. She blocked. And Ringo was expecting it. Before their weapons met, she did what she was taught to never do. She let go of her left sword and inwardly noted that it bounced from the fan and flew away. Ringo didn't care and her right sword slashed at Conan. Conan wouldn't be able to block. Her fan was on the left side and the sword was coming from the right. In her excitement, Ringo made a fatal mistake. Her swipe was too fast and too high. Only at the last moment, she realized. Her sword entered Conan's throat and her head was sent flying. Ringo's elation at hitting her opponent quickly fell as horror filled her. She could hear a childish horrified scream from the side, but her mind was mostly blank as she stared forward. Her world stopped to crawl as she watched the headless body in front of her as her sword was moving in a crawl, away from the neck it just exited. Conan's head flying up, inch by inch, her serious expression still on her face, no signs of realization on it. Ringo was mortified at what just happened that she missed one important detail. Suddenly the arm of the headless body sprang up, unfolding the fan and sending a quick, concentrated, and strong but small tornado into Ringo's unguarded stomach, sending her forcefully flying and painfully rolling on the ground. The detail was, there was no blood. Conan's head reconnected with her body as papers recreated the neck that she previously changed into paper and vanished before Ringo's sword could slash it. Conan sighed and looked at her unfolded fan and then at the unconscious Ringo on the ground. Well, this is my loss as I used ninjutsu. She shrugged and went to Kic-ahem, wake Ringo up. Ray and Conan were coming back from a mission. They were in the countryside, in the northern part of the Mizuno-kuni as they ate lunch in a tavern in a small town. I am never doing an escort mission again. Conan huffed and crossed her arms. That pig ogled my ass the entire time. I concur. I wanted to wring his neck at least 50 times. Ray agreed with a twitching eyebrow. At least he didn't have guts to try anything. If he did, Conan snorted derisively. Noble or not, a friend of the daimyo or not, his head would fly. As they conversed about the pig of a client they had to escort, a hooded figure in a small black cloak sat opposite them. They could see it was a woman and Ray took a peek at her chin, mouth, and nose that could be seen from under the hood. He quickly understood the woman is beautiful from these features alone. We need to talk. The hooded woman said. It was not an order. Both Ray and Conan recognized it for what it was. The woman was pleading, almost begging them to hear her out. Ray looked at Conan and smiled when he saw her nod. They both felt a slight familiarity with the woman and didn't know why. He turned to the fidgeting woman and spoke. Follow us. Ray rented a room for a day and they entered it. Conan quickly made papers with Ray's silencing and anti-spy seals stuck to each wall. They sat on the bed and watched as the woman stood in front of them somewhat insecurely, quivering. Her shaky hands reached upwards, taking hold of the edge of her hood and she ever so slowly started pulling it down. Conan just looked in confusion as Ray's jaw dropped the second the forehead of the woman was revealed. I am. The fidgety woman quietly mumbled while her eyes tried to look anywhere but Ray and Conan. Tsunade Senju. Ray finished for her, half in disbelief. Tsunade nodded silently, biting her lower lip. Ray never thought he would see Tsunade Senju act all insecure. Conan tensed but Ray put a hand on her shoulder. So why did you need to talk with us? Ray asked calmly. Tsunade opened her mouth and her eyes for the first time, landed on Ray, making her freeze. She stayed like that with her mouth open and wide eyes, gazing at him intently while her body trembled. Ray had some really bad premonition and activated his nature sensing and recoiled at what he felt. He and Conan were the picture of calmness, but Tsunade? The nature energy was pushing, tugging, and forcefully pulling her towards them. Her chakra was invisibly leaking from her body, its tendrils trying to reach Ray and Conan. Ray saw why she would be trembling, fighting to even keep standing. He cursed. Conan, follow. He instantly ordered Conan and in a burst of Raiton chakra, appeared near the still bewildered Tsunade. Tsunade couldn't fight even if she wanted to. She was at the end of her strength. Half dead and she wondered how it was even possible she could keep her eyes open, much less stand. When Ray swept her from her feet, bending her over his shoulder, she couldn't even protest as a jolt of pleasure sprang through her spine at his touch. Konan tilted her head but listened, and in less than a minute, Rei and Konan sped up away from the town, Rei carrying Tsunade on his shoulder. They arrived near the cliff, in front of them only a high jagged wall of rock, Tsunade already unconscious. Let's create a cave, Rei said, and Konan nodded. Both Rei and Konan put their hands on the wall of rock and said, Doton, hidden cave. The wall of rocks gave way and a big half-circular entrance appeared in front of them. They entered and the jutsu completed its second function, sealing the entrance off as Rei created small balls of fire all around to produce light. That jutsu was a very useful thing to have in a repertoire. Earth was everywhere and making an underground cave or one inside a mountain as a headquarters was always a useful skill to have. Rei removed any and all jutsu affecting Tsunade and saw her revert to a very old woman. She was shriveled and wrinkled. Her body was just skin and bones, making him wince. It's even worse than I thought. We need to enter our dimension, he gravely told Konan. Konan raised her eyebrows at Rei, thinking of dragging that woman, Tsunade, into their dimension, but she followed with a pout. Rei took out a storage seal and unsealed a square paper of the size of a half of the floor of the room in their apartment. Rei lifted Tsunade's body and carried her into the middle of the key seal on the paper as Konan followed. A chakra engulfed them and with a puff of smoke, they disappeared. In their dimension, an influx of their nature energy swirled around peacefully. The second they appeared, their bodies started to be filled to the brim with the giddy energy, making them smile. It was a very soothing feeling. The complete opposite of what Tsunade felt. The nature energy rammed into her as it recognized her as an intruder and her body started to be destroyed from the inside. Rei quickly whipped out the sense-connecting seal that caused this in the first place and placed it on Tsunade's chest. Konan understood and put her hand on it. Rei activated it and their world shifted. The second Rei's and Konan's soul, one, connected, joined soul clashed with Tsunade's. The reaction was very violent. The entire dimension pulsed. Years the dimension saw no use and only made nature energy stronger, more condensed. By now the energy permeated the air and saturated the entire space. It was clearly visible even by the naked eye. The energy was thick and now it finally had something that it could fill. The bodies of the three people as if opened the floodgates as the energy pushed into them, doing the exact same thing it did previously when this happened the first time. Only, purer, stronger, concentrated. This energy belonged to Konan and Rei. This energy was in their favor. It did its best to enhance and enforce their bond. Tsunade's soul didn't have even a shred of a chance. It couldn't hold itself together as it was continuously forcefully ripped to shreds and repatched with parts of Konan's and Rei's big patchwork soul. It slowly started merging with theirs and from two patchwork souls that made one bigger, quickly became three. The volume increased. And then it momentarily separated into three parts. One, the biggest and watery blue, containing a lot of the green and a massive amount of purple parts, was Rei's soul. Anyone skilled in soul magic from some higher world would tell you that what just happened should be impossible. But when the entire dimension pressurizes the soul, many things become possible. The purple parts were calm, collected, and happy. They invitingly welcomed the green bits that danced in delight and utter joy at the merging. Only then did Rei find out the problem. He saw a small old and dull part of his soul that was green. Green that didn't belong to him and understood. Tsunade Senju was his. She belonged to him. How? He had no idea. But her soul craved to join with his and it was slowly killing her. She must have been close when the mishap happened the first time. Rei thought. The second part was mostly bluish-purple with many patches of watery blue, creating harmony and tranquility. For this soul, this state was natural and pleasant. But when the green pieces started to fill it, they were not rejected. But they were not accepted with the same enthusiasm as Rei's soul did. Konan accepted Tsunade as her sister wife. It was abrupt. Too abrupt, but her mind and soul were telling it was a foregone conclusion. There was nothing to do anymore, so she grudgingly accepted the woman. But Konan also sent loads of demands with the parts of her soul. She wanted Tsunade to be obedient, after all. To Rei only, of course. The last part was the forest green soul. Cracked soul. Damaged. Broken. It was leaking. The piece that joined Rei's soul long ago created a very unpleasant thing. It created a crack that slowly over time weakened Tsunade's existence. Her soul needed mending. Yes, Rei's watery blue and Konan's bluish-purple bits filled it and patched it up, closing the leaks. Tsunade's soul was finally repaired and it took any demand or bond these parts of souls as fish to water. It wasn't like she had to listen to these demands of Konan. Nothing really bound her but the nagging feeling was there. But the connection. Tsunade's mind came to one conclusion only. It couldn't help but feel deep unexplainable affection for Rei. The same Konan felt for him after the mishap with the seal and Konan was firmly placed on the level of Nawaki in her heart. This, however, was a two-way street and Rei and Konan also accepted Tsunade. But even if Tsunade's soul was now mended, it was still half empty. Rei knew this would be a problem later on. But for now, Tsunade was stable and will be for years to come. That was what really mattered. She will survive. The souls re-established themselves, creating a certain hierarchy. Rei's soul gave away most. After all, these talents were on the level of godly and supreme. And while the souls received only a diluted version, it was way more than what they could get in this world even from the strongest beings, Otsutsukis. Rei's soul took the lead and bound Tsunade the same way Konan was bound to it. As his partner. Someone unable to betray him. Both Tsunade's and Konan's souls firmly attached to Rei's while creating a bridge between each other. And then, the tree souls banged together, creating the one big lump of green, purple, and blue. One big soul. And with the souls changed, the outwards changes started. In the dimension, Rei, Konan, and Tsunade were bathed in the swirling nature energy. Their chakra visible, whirling all around. Even Tsunade, who was on the verge of dying from chakra exhaustion, had her chakra stores refilled by the energy of the dimension. The three chakras leaned on each other and started merging, interweaving. Rei's and Conan's chakra no longer contained only 2 ingredients, but now it was made of 3, getting even denser than before, heavier. Their chakra reserves again rose by the factor of 5, far surpassing Kage-level reserves. This time, both Rei and Conan were completely aware of the changes and marveled at them. The previous time, their minds couldn't stay coherent from all the energy, but now, they saw what happened and Rei was already devising a seal to finalize the change. For years he was drowning in darkness, but now, finally a ray of light enlightened him. He finally knew what he needed to know to finish his binding seal and finalize this bond between them, making it ironclad. To make their souls regain their form as right now, they were open. He had no idea how to describe it more, but it was always there. A weak nagging feeling that something is not right. They both watched Tsunade, the old woman looking around 90. She is old. Conan frowned and Rei chuckled. She is in her late 20s. He commented, making Conan gape at him. Rei leaned forward and tapped with his free arm on the purple diamond on Tsunade's forehead. This is the sole reason she is still alive. He saw Conan tilt her head, so he elaborated. When we connected, she must have been close and a piece of her soul was taken from her. Ah? So that's why you were so decisive in connecting with her. She was already a part of us. Conan exclaimed in great surprise. Yes, Rei nodded. She was not a finalized connection, but she was a part of us nevertheless. We just never noticed due to the small amount of her in us. Then? What was the problem? Conan hummed. We took too little of her soul. That would be fine. But we didn't give her any of ours. Her soul was leaking, for the lack of a better word. Leaking? Really? Conan's lips curled into a small smile. I really don't have a better term to explain it. It manifested in her chakra slowly leaking from her body. Sure, she regenerated it, but it put a tremendous strain on her body and life force. Rei lovingly put his hand on Tsunade's cheek. Day by day, she must have felt herself dying, but even her lifelong medical experience couldn't save her. That's shuddering thought. Conan bitterly grimaced and decided to be good to Tsunade. Her body couldn't keep it up and she was slowly starting to be unable to regenerate her chakra. She herself must have recognized she was dying. It must have taken years. She would be dead years ago if not for her stored reserves in the yin seal. I see. She was lucky. More like dead tired most of the time. Rei snorted as he put his thumb under Tsunade's eye and gently rubbed it, removing a thick layer of makeup. Under Tsunade's eye was a deep black circle. One, a certain future Ichibi Jinchuriki would be proud of. Well, it also took a considerable amount of life force from her since there was nothing else holding her body together. She is a Senju. Senju would have her current look if he was around 150 to 180 years old. You can understand why I freaked out in the tavern. Conan nodded. To think the woman who was barely 30 lost around 150 years worth of life force. Conan really couldn't help but pity her. She didn't know how much of that is the new bond and how much is her own sincerity, but it didn't matter. The bond was a part of her and she decided to accept it wholeheartedly. Oh, finally. Rei smiled as he saw Tsunade's body reverting. He saw the curious look on Conan, so he explained with a chuckle. Her body is regaining her youth. It is oversaturated with nature energy that is making her younger, giving her back her lost life force. And then, making this life force stronger. The summoning animals gained intelligence and speech due to nature energy. They live usually in highly saturated places with this energy and can live hundreds, if not thousands of years. He trailed off as he noticed the look of understanding in Conan's eyes. We are similar to them, then. Conan concluded and Rei nodded. Yes, that's my conclusion. Tsunade is going through every change our bodies did when we connected. It is enhancing her all over. Her mind, body, and chakra. Rei finally took his hand away from the connecting seal as he saw the nature energy around them to calm and settle down. The connection was finished. We would have lived for hundreds of years on nature energy alone. But now. He said as he spread his hand to the sides, gesturing to the dimension of green, tall trees and a thin mist of healthy bright greenish glint, made of nature energy. Now that we have our own source of an unending energy customized for us? He turned to Conan with a smugly raised eyebrow and the left side of his lips curled in a smirk. Conan understood he wanted her to finish the statement. We are unaging? She half answered, half asked. Oh, we do age. Our souls do. But our bodies will stop at our prime. That's why. He pointed at Tsunade and Conan's eyes widened. She was now looking like a 20-years-old woman, her body strong and toned. Conan noted the woman was extremely beautiful and smiled happily. Yes, this woman would do. She started unconsciously caressing Tsunade's head. As long as we have our dimension, we won't age. Conan nodded in understanding. Yes, that's why I gotta make more seals in order to improve it and us. Hey Shuklet. Conan tilted her head. Well, I can finally close our bond on a soul level. That will allow me to root our existences deeply in this dimension and connect it to our souls. Right now it would be dangerous. The Uzumaki seals gave you a lot of knowledge and basis for new theories. Conan grumbled. She didn't understand and didn't like it when Rei talked about something she didn't understand. But she could only sigh in annoyance. That they did. Hey snorted. Uzumaki forbade soul-level sealing a long time ago. But they kept the knowledge. Most of their sealers couldn't pull it off safely anyway. It almost always ended with some deformities, accidents, or most likely death of the target, so they forbid using it. But with my talent? Ha, I can and will pull it off. Rei rolled his eyes. The knowledge about this kind of sealing was hidden very deeply and discreetly in the sealing scrolls in the Kiri library. It was not even in one scroll. It was strewn through hundreds of them, most of them useless scrolls that wouldn't see any use. But Ray looked through them all and connected the dots. And he found out the most chilling and exciting art. Sealing on the level far above the Grandmaster level. Soul and dimensional sealing. Creating dimensions, that always made Uzumaki stumped. They wanted to make their own small world and relocate there. Nobody would threaten them there. But their experimental dimension would always collapse, so they gave up. Soul level sealing. It was one of the most powerful things in the entire Narutoverse. Theoretically, creating bijou should be possible if only really, really hard. But in practice? Even Uzumaki couldn't pull it off safely. But Ray could. With enough effort and time. And now that he saw and sensed the entire process of connection creation when Tsunade joined, he was sure. He was going to make a soul level seal. A seal that will allow for far too much than just a simple soul bond. He couldn't help but get excited.